college football preview video. Today we're taking a look at the Week 3 matchup on Friday, September 13th. Houston taking on Washington State. Both a matchup here of Cougars down in Houston. This game is at NRG Stadium, the home of the Houston Texans. And yes, that does mean Houston and Washington State will both play on turf inside. That should be a fun one as we head into a big-time Friday night in college football. I'm here to break it down with Ian Cameron. We broke down another game on a previous video. Make sure you check that out. Florida State and Virginia. This should be a fun one, Ian Cameron, Friday night. A lot of fireworks expected in this matchup. You look at, first of all, Washington State. Haven't had any trouble in the first 2 weeks. They put up 59 and 58. First week was against New Mexico State. Had no trouble with that group. Last week, beat up on the Bears of Northern Colorado. The boys from Greeley had a lot of trouble out at the Palouse, Ian. Two games, though, that if you look at Washington State, offensively, they were unbelievable. They've been terrific. From a yards per play perspective, second in the country in yards per play. You also look at the fact that this team hasn't missed any beat from the passing standpoint. 507 yards a game. They're throwing the ball, Ian Cameron, 71.43% of the time. They don't run the ball. That's pretty normal under Mike Leach's offense. But here's my concern if I'm Washington State. You played Northern Colorado and New Mexico State. In those two games, you gave up 355 to Northern Colorado and 317 to New Mexico State. So while you did win by 40 points in both games, you got to be a bit concerned defensively. They were probably a little disinterested. I get it. But you have a good quarterback coming in here. And why I say that, Ian, you look at last season, they played Khalil Tate in the Arizona Wildcats. Khalil Tate, obviously a dual-threat quarterback. Khalil Tate threw for almost 300 yards and accounted for 4 touchdowns in that game. This is a Washington State team that has struggled against dual-threat. You look at Houston, though. I mean, Ian, can it get any worse for this defense? You look at through 2 games, they're giving up 686 yards per game. I mean, am I reading a misprint, Ian? I mean, that is horrific stuff. You also look at the fact that per pass attempt, 13.8 passing yards per play. I mean, and keep in mind, Ian, they played Oklahoma, which I get it, but what the hell was the excuse against the Prairie View A&M, whatever their mascot is? Just a disgusting performance. I'm worried about Houston. They're getting no pressure up front. They've not registered a sack yet this season. I think Anthony Gordon's going to have a monster game here. I'm looking at this total, Ian, 74.5. You got a Wazoo team laying 9 on the road. I'm interested to hear your breakdown. I like over. I'm not going to lie here. This should be a track meet.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting a bargain in the mid-70s, but there are concerns about this team, both of these teams, really on the defensive side of the football. I will say this going into this game, when you look at it, obviously, if you're watching this video, you're probably watching two of the people that have not – there's not two people that probably have waxed poetic more about Mike Leach and Washington State than the two guys you're looking at right here, me and Big Man. We love this team. We love this coach. Mike Leach has done an incredible job, really, he has. The fact that he took a Pullman program here at Washington State, which was destitute, which was absolutely in shambles when he took it over years ago, and has made them a perennial Pac-12 contender year in and year out, has been remarkable. And the fact that he's been able to plug in one quarterback after another throughout his tenure at Washington State and get this almost the same amount of production from Luke Falk to Gardner Minshew, and now to Gordon, who, albeit New Mexico State and Northern Colorado, but boy, moving the football with ease, incredible accuracy throwing the football. And you're right, Big Man, in terms of your point that, Washington State doesn't run the football a lot. That's just a staple of the air raid under Mike Leach. It's just something that you come to realize is, hey, this is, it's death, taxes, and not a lot of ground attack when it comes to offense coached by Mike Leach. And that's what we see here at Washington State year in and year out. Here's my issue, though. Washington State doesn't just have to win this game by margin from a side standpoint. They got to win this game. They got to win it by margin, and they got to do it. Albeit it's not a true home field for Houston, but it's going to be a partisan Houston crowd. Obviously, with this game taking place where the Texans play there at NRG Stadium. And I worry about this being a step up in class for them that maybe they're not quite ready for just yet. And Dana Holgorsen worked on Mike Leach's coaching staff many years ago at Texas Tech, long time ago. Dana Holgorsen's going to know what's coming from this Mike Leach Washington State offense. Now, you could say the flip side, too. Washington State's defense is going to know what Dana Holgorsen is going to bring to the table here with this Houston offense. But, familiarity, I think, for Houston in particular, for a defense that struggled, could really help them a little bit. It hasn't been a good defense, but I will say this: their numbers. The Prairie View A&M was not good, but it was a brutal sandwich spot a little bit between a big game against Oklahoma and a big game like this against Washington State on a Friday night. We'll see if Houston's defense is able to progress a little bit going into this game. I think the Oklahoma game is really skewing the numbers just a little bit. And I'll say this: at least Houston's tested themselves. They went to Norman, had to play Oklahoma week 1. Washington State hasn't tested themselves one bit. And we're talking now about, and I hate to beat the same drum that I've been beating all several months going back to last year. You're not going to see me laying this number of points, more than a touchdown now, with a Pac-12 team in a non-conference game. You're just not going to see me do it. I have seen this bowl track record for this conference the last 2 years is just so bad and so hideous that I cannot trust a team in this kind of point spread range from that conference in non-conference play. I can't. I won't. I just will not do it. The bowl track record of Pac-12 teams has been garbage the last 2 years. They're all non-conference games, of course, at bowl season. That's a concern for me. I think there's definite point spread value on Houston from a side perspective. I love Leach and Washington State, but in this game, I could only look to Houston plus the points. In terms of the total, I was hoping for a little bit of a shorter number with it, but I wouldn't argue with anyone wanting to look over the total in this game. Has the look of a game where both offenses way ahead of both defenses right now.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Likely, we're going to see a shootout here, Ian. Getting 9-10 points in a game like that, always a nice spot to be in. This is a Washington State defense that has to replace some players. You look at last year, Peyton Ployer, I believe his last name was, 98 tackles last year, had 4.5 sacks. He was a machine for Tracy Clace's defense. And you mentioned it. I mean, really haven't been tested yet. You're going to be on turf here. Look, Houston's going to have to throw the football. I don't think they're going to be able to just run the ball the entire game like they have been. This is a defensive line that's probably one of the strengths. You look at it in 2 games, I think Washington State's given up like 96 yards a game on the ground. I'd have to imagine, I think Derek King's going to have to throw the football to Stevenson, Corbin, Lark. I think they're going to have to play from behind here. I think they're going to be forced into throwing the football, and that bodes well for over totals. Look, at the end of the day, you're going to give me a total here. There's no way in hell I'm betting the under. I'm just not. I've seen it far too many times where I want to try to get cute with a total in the 70s and go under. I'll be honest with you. I was surprised this total wasn't 77, honestly. I thought it'd be mid to upper 70s. This is not a game played on grass with weather concerns. It's going to be nice and dry inside NRG. I think it's one of those typical, wow. I mean, it's 28-21 midway through the second quarter. I think this can be a fun game. I'm excited about it. And I usually go out, Ian on Friday nights. Have a feeling I might stay in for this one. Could be a fun one.
Yeah, it should be a fun game, and I'm with you. I mean, when I say I wasn't, my number for the total was something in the 72, so it's a little lower than this, but that's why I'm a little more gun shy. But there's nothing that can get me on the under in this game. Not nothing whatsoever. Not in this football game. Not with the question marks I have with both of these teams on the defensive side of the football. And I know Washington State's defense. And let's not forget the Washington State games. The first 2, both in Pullman against nobodies essentially. New Mexico State and Northern Colorado. Haven't bet side. Haven't bet total yet. But for me, it's Houston and the over on Friday night.
I want to make this clear also. I don't watch film per se. I'm not one of those guys. But one of the ways that I, Ian, get to know so much personnel and stuff is every Sunday I watch every D1 game. I watch the highlights of every game. And I spent a lot of time week 1 watching Houston, Oklahoma. that defense is not good. They are fundamentally not a good defense. They can't tackle. And that's one of the big problems also that Washington State's had. I read one of the blogs from up there, and the fan base has not been happy with the poor tackling. And they're actually surprised that in both games, they gave up over 300 yards. That's not good enough if you're Washington State. I'd expect Clates to get it figured out, but I don't know if this is the game you're going to figure it out in. On the road against a dual-threat quarterback with limited time to prepare in a neutral site on turf. I don't think this is the spot. I think you just throw it to the Wolves. This one goes back and forth. I'm going to go over in this game, and this will likely be a play for me at 74.5. Ian Cameron going with Houston, grabbing the points. I can't blame you on that one. I just can't. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Always appreciate all the views on the videos. Look, I'm a homegrown channel. I promote it myself. No one else really promotes it. It's just good content, and we break games down here. We don't sit here and beat around a bush for 20 minutes on what we like. Ian likes the side. I like the total here. Let's rock with it. Ian, good to see you. Good to have you back. Before we let you go, tell us what you're up to right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter at Bobano. If you're interested from a subscription standpoint, you email me, bobano350@gmail.com for more info about that. One more point I want to make about this Washington State-Houston game is Mike Leach is a coach that I make a point of every week on that Monday afternoon. I'm watching his press conference because he's that good. He's that entertaining. He's going to give you something interesting. And half the press conference, they're not even going to ask him about football. They're asking him about life stuff, music stuff, just because they know they're going to get something entertaining and funny out of him. But one of the things he said about his football team, and talking about 2-0, he's happy they're 2-0, but he said, we got to get a hell of a lot mentally tougher. And that quote stuck out to me like a sore thumb from Mike Leach, talking about his team not being mentally tough, even though they're 2-0 against Patsy so far. We're going to find out how mentally tough they are in a much mentally tougher spot, such as this one on the road against a much better opponent.
Well said. You're not going to get a better breakdown on one game than that. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Ian, as always, thanks for jumping on. We'll see you next week. If you're new around here, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. And if you're not new around here, just like and comment. Do whatever you want to do. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Ian, we'll see you next week. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, big man.